The press days for the 2018 Los Angeles Auto Show are just over, and the brand new 2020 Jeep Gladiator pickup truck was unveiled. That was a big deal at the show, and we did 3 videos about the truck on our TFO Truck channel. But now it's time to digest some of that information and see how the new Gladiator pickup truck compares against the major competitors that are on sale right now. So in this video, I want to go over all the specs and some of the features of the new Gladiator Jeep truck versus the Toyota Tacoma and the Chevy Colorado. The Toyota Tacoma is currently the segment leader, the biggest seller in the midsize truck segment in the United States. Chevy Colorado is number 2. And I'm not gonna be comparing these trucks to the Ford Ranger yet because it's not on sale yet in the United States. When it does go on sale, I'll do another video featuring the Ford Ranger and the Jeep truck as well. So let's get going. I have a story here on my computer that shows a lot of the numbers. So I'll be using the website tfotruck.com right here to show you what I'm talking about. When we spoke with Jeep guys at the Los Angeles Auto Show, they said that the Gladiator truck does 2 things. It takes the off-road goodness that Jeep's known for with the Wrangler, especially the 4-door Wrangler, and it combines it with the attributes of a pickup truck. So what does that all mean? That means the Jeep Gladiator needs to do both things. It needs to be good off-road, and it also needs to be really good as a pickup truck. To do that, Jeep says they gave it a unique chassis. The frame and the wheelbase is actually about 19 or to 20 inches longer in the Gladiator than in the 4-door Wrangler. They also gave it unique suspension and new 3rd generation Dana 44 axles that are actually bigger and wider and more robust to handle the higher payloads and the towing loads that the truck will see. So let's take a look at the wheelbase, overall length, dimensions, width, and interior, because this is where it gets pretty interesting. As you can see here, the Gladiator has by far the longest wheelbase when you compare it against the crew cab short bed trucks. And I'm not going to be looking at the Tacoma and the Colorado with a long bed because the Jeep Gladiator comes with only with a 5-foot bed in a crew cab configuration. So for this particular comparison, I'm only using that crew cab short bed. And the Gladiator is about between 10 and 9 inches longer. 10 inches longer wheelbase than the Tacoma, about 9 inches longer than the Colorado. It's also the longest overall by about 6 inches. But it's not the widest, surprisingly. The width is rated or is listed at 73.8 inches for the Gladiator, where the Tacoma and the Colorado are actually between like 1 and 1.5 inches wider. The headroom and the legroom, though, the Jeep Gladiator really shines in this department. The numbers listed here, 42.8 inches front and rear headroom is with a soft top. Of course, the Gladiator is the only pickup truck in the midsize segment, or actually in any segment currently, is a convertible. So you can actually take the roof off, be it a hard top roof or a soft top. So that makes it very unique. It also gives it a lot of headroom, much more than in the Tacoma and the Colorado, by about between 3 and 2 inches more. Of course, the hardtop on the Jeep decreases that amount of headroom a little bit, but still highly competitive interior space on the Gladiator. That's also the case with legroom. If you look at the front legroom, yeah, it's not the best. It's actually the lowest of the 3 here by quite a lot, by about between 1 and 4 inches. But the rear legroom in the second row is where the Gladiator shines. 38.3 inches of rear legroom in the midsize truck. I don't think I've heard of this ever. The Tacoma double cab crew cab has 32.6, about 5.5 inches less, and the Colorado crew cab has 35.8, about 2.5 inches less rear legroom. And when I sat in a Jeep truck at the Los Angeles Auto Show, I could tell that for myself. I had a lot of headroom, I had a lot of legroom, so it was really, really comfortable truck to be in. And maybe this is where midsize pickup trucks will go in general, because Jeep is coming out with a brand new design, right? And the Tacoma and the Colorado designs are already several years old. So maybe next generation Tacoma, next generation Colorado, and Frontier and Ranger and others will be growing in size. I know most of us don't like this because we like small trucks. You know, if we wanted a full-size truck, we'll buy a full-size truck. But in this case, for the mid-size, it looks like the trend is to bigger and better. Let's look at the off-road specs, because like I said, Jeep is about off-roading. They're touting their off-road capability in a big way. So let's quickly compare the ground clearance and approach and departure angles. It has the best among these three. And I'm listing here the ground clearance and approach and departure angles basically for a four-wheel drive truck. Once again, crew cab, short bed. The Gladiator here is listed at 11.1 inches of ground clearance, which is almost an inch and a half more than the Tacoma and a couple inches more than the Colorado. So it has good ground clearance, even with those solid axles front and rear. So the Gladiator is the only truck amongst these three with a solid front axle, which gives it hopefully a little bit more articulation in the front. Really good approach angle, the best in fact, by far, 43.4 degrees. And the competitive departure angle for the rear of the truck, it's the same as the Tacoma, but better than the Colorado. But the breakover is where it struggles. It's quite a bit less than the Tacoma 4x4 at 20.3 because the wheelbase is that long. Your breakover angle will suffer. In this column, the Colorado, I'm listing the breakover and approach and departure angles for a 4x4 truck with that low chin attached. Of course, Chevrolet will tell you that if you want better angles, you can remove your front chin spoiler. So it's a whole different ball game. So I don't have those numbers quite here. So this is the numbers I'm listing here. Low range and crawl ratios. Well, let's look at the low range because this is where the Gladiator obviously shines. 2.72 to 1. It seems to be the common low range ratio in transfer cases. The Tacoma has a slightly less low range, but the way that the Gladiator truck actually manages crawl ratio, it's using a 6-speed manual transmission and a 410 rear differential ratio to get that really, really high or really good crawl ratio. And this is important for slow speed crawling over rocks and difficult terrain. Of course, the Rubicon Gladiator gets a Falcon Wild Peak 33-inch tall tire, which is the largest tire of these three trucks. The Tacoma gets the Wrangler with Kevlar, and actually it's interesting to see that the Tacoma is using a 16-inch rim, while the Jeep and the Chevy use 17-inch rims for their 4x4 models in the midsize. Now, how about power? Because Jeep said the Gladiator is also a truck, not just an off-road machine, right? So power is very important for towing, slowing down your loads with the transmission and grade shifting, etc., etc., etc. So let's take a look. The Gladiator has only one engine option right now as it sits. It'll be on sale, by the way, in about May to June timeframe, second quarter of 2019. So it's not on sale yet. But the Pentastar 3.6 liter V6 with 285 horsepower and 260 pound-feet of torque is the only engine. And unfortunately, this torque figure, 260 pound-feet of torque, is the lowest of the bunch. The Tacoma has 265 pound-feet and 275 on the Chevy Colorado. Although the Gladiator comes with a choice of a 6-speed manual, 8-speed automatic, same with the Tacoma. So they kind of go hand in hand there. The Colorado only offers an 8-speed auto with the V6. And these engines we're comparing here. The Colorado also has the highest horsepower of the bunch. But for a truck, I actually like to see more torque. I'm not listing the Nissan Frontier here, but the Nissan Frontier gas engine actually has the most torque of the gas V6 engines. And I really appreciate that. It really helps in the real world. Fuel tank, the Jeep has the largest, so hopefully it will have a better range. Fuel economy is not rated yet for the Jeep. but the combined rating for 4x4 Tacoma automatic is 20 mpg and 19 mpg for a 4x4 Chevy Colorado. So I'm expecting the Jeep to be in that neighborhood because it also can be a fairly heavy truck with that long wheelbase and the chassis. Rear differential ratios, the Gladiator is a 373 and or 410 depending on the model. The Tacoma is a little interesting. It has a 391 or a 430, and the Colorado only has one rear diff ratio of 342. But here where it gets really interesting, because we have to look at towing and payload numbers, because these trucks need to be trucks, right? And the Gladiator lists and quotes their maximum towing at 7,650 pounds, which is in this case for a four-wheel drive crew cab truck for the midsize segment is the highest number. The Tacoma 4x4 is rated at 6,400 pounds. The Colorado diesel is rated at 7,600 pounds for a 4x4. So even with the diesel, the Colorado cannot match the Gladiator numbers. But, and this is a big notice, we found out that the Gladiator does not come with an integrated brake controller from the factory. This is a big deal because the Colorado does. So if you get a Chevy Colorado or GMC Canyon, they do have integrated brake controllers. The Tacoma does not, but the Tacoma never touted its towing ability really highly. The Jeep does. And the fact that they don't offer an integrated brake controller is really kind of a miss in my book. Yeah, I know it may not be wired correctly because the Wrangler never had a brake controller. I understand that, but in this case for the Gladiator, you need to offer it. Maybe they will in the future, and I think that's a miss for them. Maximum payload 1,600 pounds for a sport model. Gladiator, that's really big. If you compare it to a Colorado 4x4, it's a little bit more, 60 pounds more or 68 pounds more. And it's a lot more than the Tacoma. So Jeep has the payload number in a very competitive way. Ford Ranger may have to say something about this, and we'll do another video because Ford Ranger actually has slightly better payload ratings than this Gladiator number, but that'll come a little bit later. Finally, to summarize, the Jeep Gladiator truck does offer a heck of a lot of off-road ability. Solid axles, it has Fox shocks, it has disconnectable front sway bar, it has, low range, really good curl ratio, has all those things except for the breakover angle. And it also shows really good towing and payload numbers, although I'm a bit disappointed about the lack of the integrated brake controller. Still, it compares very highly against the segment leader Tacoma and the second bestseller Chevy Colorado. Go back to tfltruck.com for more news, views, and real-world truck reviews.